Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Full Disclosure with the Executive. I am your host, Secretary Terence Baines, and we are so glad that we have another opportunity to share with you, the public, what's happening on the governance landscape, what's happening in the various districts, what's happening on the political landscape for that matter. We are very thankful that we have this medium so to do. We want to thank all of you who follow the program religiously and all of that. We are thankful for your inputs and so on, and I am sure that tonight would be no different. We always ask that even in your commentary and so on, for those of you who are on the live feed, that you would be respectful. We understand that there is a myriad of opinions, and these opinions are, they're eager to get out. You understand? So we are thankful. So welcome. Tonight we are going to have, I am sure, a very informative conversation around this administration. We have some formidable women, intelligent, beautiful, sharp, and all the fantastic adjectives you can think about. And we are very honored tonight to have on set with us Lady Sutika Williams. Good night, ma'am. How are you?
Good night, and thank you for having me.
Yes. So, Lady Sutika works out of the office of the Chief Secretary, and she, of course, is one of the counselors on the team. And we are very privileged to have her to help guide us with the public service matters and civil service matters and so on as we navigate the governance here in Tobago in this season. I want to start immediately because as far back as I can remember, I know you was working in the public service. How long have you been? Well, I know you retired. Well, not even retired. You refired. But how long did you work officially in the public service?
Just over 40 years.
40 years.
Yes.
Jeez,
I joined the public service in 1977 as a Clerk 1. And I officially retired in March 2018, a substantive appointment as Senior Human Resource Officer, but I was acting as Director HR.
Okay.
THA.
Okay. So tell me about some of the different places that you would have worked and so on and those.
THA?
Yes.
Well, I started at the Tobago County Council in 1977. So the THA was not even yet on the landscape.
Right.
And, when I look at public officers today and I see some of the ease with which they work.
Yes.
I remember when I joined, there was that crucial general election in 1977.
Yes, we all remember. Yes.
When the PNM lost both Tobago East and Tobago West. And those of us, I was moved from County Council to Works Department. And of course, there was no Ministry for Tobago Affairs when former Prime Minister Williams formed that new cabinet. So every division in Tobago reverted to the management of a head ministry in Trinidad.
Wow.
1-3 Edward Street, Port of Spain. And Secretary Baines, it was a rough time. When we got to work at 8, we finished a day's work at about 2-3 a.m. the next morning.
Wow.
Because every voucher had to be taken to Trinidad for processing. So an officer, 2 flights per day, an officer had to be ready for the first flight and get all the vouchers processed, checks cut, and then come back on the last flight. And we did that religiously. I remember good old Robert Punjabi, that driver who lived in Bay Street, would be the one to take all of us home in the wee hours of the morning. And we had a colleague who lived in Devines Road. So all of us accompanied him to Devines Road. And then we made the circle around Tobago.
Right.
It was good old days. And I worked at licensing. I worked at, when CAST was created, I worked at CAST. And then the early days of the THA, I was appointed to the THA in 1982. So those were the rough, the formative years, the unsettling years, when we were scrambling to put all the systems in place and so on. So I was a part of that.
What was that like? What was that like?
The beauty about it is that we had a different culture. We were employed and working was important to us. Punctuality, regularity was important to us. Getting the job done was important. So we went to work, we stayed at work, and we worked. Right? Because I remember, because I was working in accounting, when we had to write checks. And you had to write hundreds of checks. And so on. And you had probably 2 typists. And but we got through.
So do you think those hard times produced a different type of worker, a different philosophy, a different perspective, a different approach to work?
Of course. Because besides, remember, you were happy to get a job, eh?
Right.
You may have come from a family that was very poor. So when you get a work.
Yes.
And you had your pay. I remember when I decided I was going to stay home one day because I have sick leave. My mother nearly had a heart attack. Are you sick?
Yes.
No, tell me the truth. So how you taking sick leave?
And they're not sick.
You sure they didn't fire you? You lose the work?
Right.
Tell me the truth. Yeah, but we worked well and we worked hard. And we helped the THA to get itself together, the firm footing. And we are where we are today. Each division is privileged to have its own HR unit, its own accounting unit. Those days, Sandy Hall was the one accounting unit for the THA.
That was the nucleus, man. Everything happening in Bacalet.
Everything in Bacalet. From the good, the bad, the cussing, who ain't get paid, when paid late, everything. But we had good supervisors. People like the deceased Gloria Carrington, there was Bindley Benjamin, Esther Benjamin, people like Carol Alfred, and so on. We had good supervisors. They worked along with us. They knew what it was to get on the floor with us, and so on. So those were good days. And there's still good days in the THA.
Yes. You know, moving from there to now, but let me ask before I get there, but in all the different places that you work, which department or which area you preferred above all of them?
Sandy Hall is the best. Sandy Hall was the place to work.
Yes.
We worked as family.
Right.
We cared for each other. We took care of each other. After Sandy Hall, works department, man.
Yes.
Works can only be works. Works is just different to everywhere else. But I love works.
Yes.
Right?
You know, you drive up to town now and you see the building that used to be works all the time, and you wonder, you know, well, of course the workforce would not have been as large as it is now, but even back then, you thought all this activity taking place in this little space, right?
The stories. You know, there were some characters when you have people like Red Cloud and the Archie Boys and so on. You know, there was entertainment, especially on our Friday. There was entertainment, you know, but works is peculiar. Works is a peculiar beast. But Sandy Hall, with all its memories and all the family orientation, and Sandy Hall was it. It was the place to work.
Now, and we move from that time to now. When we one of the first things that the chief secretary did with the new team was to organize some sessions, and I remember one of the most notable was the session with former head of the public service, Mr. Reginald Dumas, to kind of help us to appreciate the relationship that should exist between the public officials and the public servants and so on, and that relationship, and to try and sensitize us, because of course, as a secretary, you can go into a division, and because you have the responsibility to preside over and so on, you can, the rules, the lines rather, can get very blurred if you don't understand the relationship, and to my mind, that can defeat the purpose of what you're trying to do and so on. So I appreciated those sessions a lot, and I think most of us did. But I mean, that is not even foolproof, because you're talking about people, and you're talking about work ethic and so on, and there are strong political feelings and so on, and so I wanted to talk about people carrying out their function, both officials understanding what their responsibility is and how they're supposed to relate with the people that do the work for them and so on, and how that relationship impacts what transpires in the division.
A secretary or an assistant secretary has specific rules. You're a politician, your appointment is XYZ. The THA Act spells it out. You're responsible for the general direction and control. You are the policy maker. Because, of course, your mandate brought you success. And the mandate must be accomplished. Right? So you are quite clear on that. Now, there must be an execution of the mandate, which has to be carried out by public officials, because this is public administration, right? So there has to be a careful balance. In the midst of a secretary and assistant secretary and the general workforce, there is an administrator. And there is a chief administrator, which is the buffer between the political side of things and the public service side of things, right? A secretary or assistant secretary, remember, as I said, the mandate is what matters. Driving, let us use our own circumstance. Driving Tobago is what matters. Good? So you want to roll out. But the rollout must be done within the confines of certain rules. So you have the financial, there is the budgetary. You have to learn that. You have to learn how that operates. So you can't say, I want to buy a calculator, and you automatically buy a calculator. An administrator is now telling you about vote and head and subhead and item, and there is no funding in that vote, and we have to vie and we have to transfer. Right? So you operate. So you have to understand that there are rules lower down the line. The balance has to be created. There has to be harmony. Good? An administrator must understand your mandate. Those down the ladder must understand the mandate also and what has to be done. But they are all used. They are the financial regulations, they are the HR rules and all that. Good? You cannot, it can't be a bucking of anything. Especially if the secretary or assistant secretary is new to the thing, is a whole learning experience for you. You may have an administrator too who is also new. And you may have to depend on the person with the greater knowledge down the line. Right? So as I said, there has to be a balance. Nobody can rush in. There must be a balance. There must be harmony. And a secretary must too quickly try to understand culture. Not that the culture must remain steadfast. There may be a change, a demand for change of the culture, and a swift demand also, right? Because let's say there's a laissez-faire attitude. That may not be the best thing for where you are. Okay? So you balance your story, and then two, you have to understand you as a secretary may want to go all the way down and say, I want to get this done. A public servant also has the rules by which they
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Yes. And the thing is that, sometimes you hear these stories. You hear about secretaries, officials, throwing their weight around and that kind of thing. And then on the other hand, you hear about public servants who seem so defiant and untouchable and unmovable and that kind of thing. But I think when they actually come into this situation, and that's why I appreciated those sessions so much, because it kind of helped to sensitize you about what you should expect. Because you will come in, you come in, you have all this exuberance.
You're hot and sweaty. You want to get the ball rolling. Get the thing done,
and you are oblivious of how the hows, the norms and forms of the thing. And now I want to ask this question. Now we have had a regime in place for close 2 decades, right? And it is reasonable to conclude that persons in the commanding heights of the administration may be of a particular political persuasion. And you could have this looming fear that you will, in other words, before you even come into the situation, that you will get pushed back and you're going to have a fight and so on. But in your experience, what you have seen, have you seen people, regardless of their political persuasion, but are committed to duty and do their work regardless of their persuasion?
I was one.
Yeah.
The political persuasion has no place between 8 a.m. and 4:15 in the life of a public official. That is to be kept until 4:16. You are appointed and paid to carry out your task, and that has to be done. As long as the tasks do not run contrary to the existing policies, guidelines, regulations, and so on. Right? That has no place in your day-to-day duties. Has no place.
Right. I mean, we all of us have had some experiences, and I am not sufficiently informed to say that is endemic of a whole division, but I am almost certain that every secretary, not even just in our time, may have encountered people who should do what you just said. You understand? Who from 8 to 4 should be minding the public service business. You understand? But we find that there are incidents when it appears as if the politics and political position get in the midst of the work, and so the work cannot get done. We have heard so many people have made allegations have been made about how they've been treated and how the payments have been treated, the gratuities have been treated, and those kinds of things. So you have all these things coming to the fore, and I wonder if the relationships that officials have, or let me put it another way, what impact the relationships with the officials and with the team would have on stuff like that.
Personality and perceptions are things we can't do anything about. All right? Some folks may take a particular stance for reasons unknown to themselves. Right?
Yeah.
But for my years within the public service, I have not seen that manifested very much. All right? Public servants have been public servants.
Okay.
You understand, yes, that some officials may be fearful that if they have to deal with person X or person Y, they expect a certain behavior, certain reaction. But discipline, ensuring that the job gets done, falls squarely in the lap of the head of department. Right? So if there is any lapse, if work doesn't get done well, and so on, the head of department is the one who is going to answer for that. My mother used to say, when the ship hits the rock, you don't ask the cook.
Indeed.
You don't ask the cook.
Right.
And the thing about it, if a public officer willingly disobeys or disregards a lawful instruction from someone who so has the authority to give the instruction, there is a code of conduct in the civil service regulations, regulations 134 to 149, encompasses the code of conduct. The public service regulations has a chapter that deals with discipline. If an officer is given an instruction and he or she thinks it's contrary or it runs afoul or is in breach of any existing rule, guidelines, whatever, it is your right to so say.
Right.
You put it, and it's not verbal. You should do it in writing. As we say, you should ensure, I used to tell my staff, make sure you CYA. I can't say what that means on air, but public officers understand what that means.
Right.
So you CYA. And if the person with the authority to give the instruction says the instruction is to be carried out, it is to be carried out.
Right.
You don't want to, then you face the brunt of it.
Right. Do you think that in the Tobago space that there is a reluctance on the part of officials, perhaps heads of department, to go to those regulations when people run afoul with their duties and so on?
Some are very lax, and probably there are a host of reasons for that. The social environment has changed, and some people are fearful. Some of us, we have familiar ties, so we don't want to rock the boat and so on. But you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of what the damage it does to the work culture if we don't.
You must do what has to be done. All right? It's there, it's clear cut, and so on. So you do what has to be done.
Yes. Because, I mean, we are hearing all the time about the culture of work across the THA. I mean, all of us, whether it's in some of the daily paid teams out in the field or even in the various divisions themselves. And I wonder if that reluctance, while I appreciate as well, as you just said, some of the social implications sometimes is some member of your family who delinquent, that kind of thing, and those kinds of things. But what has that done, or what does that continue to do to the whole work climate?
It hurts. Yes. It hurts, right? It hurts. And I usually see, probably no work in the public service is hard, right? We are to work 40 hours a week. We are paid for that. And we must give our pound of flesh. We must do it.
Right.
Good. The late coming has now become endemic. The times of arrival and departure The goalpost has changed until now it is no longer visible.
Go and drop your child or pick up your child and those kind of things.
But you see, our society is structured in a way too that sometimes we can't avoid some things, right? Because, okay, a parent is to get to work for 8. You would want to drop off the child at 7:30, 7:45. But the gate of the school is closed. Because the teacher is supposed to be at work for 8 also. And will not get there before 8.
Right.
So what are you going to do with the child? Right? So there are some factors that box you in.
Got you.
Some box you in.
I got you.
Probably where we may have to look at, and you at Community Development, Sport and Youth may have to, or the Secretary for Education, and we may have to roll out a system where you may have a school guardian or a nurse and somebody at school who, I don't know how they're going to get the gates open, whether the principal is responsible for the plant and you can't get the plant open before the principal gets there. But all things are related, my old teacher would say.
Yes. And I get you. I get that, because and it has become so entrenched in the culture that it is the norm that when, no matter what you're doing at the office, when an officer says that to go and pick up the child, it is like whatever we're doing here, picking up,
wait.
Yes, has to wait. You understand that?
But sometimes you don't mind if they pick up the child and they come back.
Yeah, you understand. So we have that. I think looking at my short tour of duty around the public service thing and all of that, just observing and trying to learn, of course. I feel, my sense, and I can speak about community development, that most of the people there love their work and want to do their work and that kind of stuff. I think that the environment, sometimes we have to also look at that, meaning providing them with the kind of tools and the atmosphere to carry, because in the divisions there are lots of issues as well, lack of space, lack of equipment to carry out the work and those kinds of things. So I am looking at all these things, and we are trying to see how we can optimize the work, how we can optimize it, prepare, make sure the environment is healthy and all of that, user friendly for the workers and so on. At the same time, managing some pushbacks that come up from time to time for whatever reason, because those seem to come up, and so on, and manage, and we have to manage that.
And remember, some of the pushback would have nothing to do with you per se.
Right.
Because, for example, the last salary negotiation ended in 2013. We're now 10 years later. People like myself, I retired in 2018, and my terminal benefits were calculated at a 2013 salary. You have people working now, and when the majority recognized union meets with the CPO, and you hear an offer of 0. Zero. So you're 14 to 16, you hear 0. 17 to 19, 0. So sometimes the pushback has nothing to do with you.
Right.
But it's coming from the external, some factor in the external environment.
Break your vibes.
It's saying, well, 0, 0.
Right.
So what?
Yes.
And then you come and you hear 2% or 4%. And you work it out and you see something like $100, $125. And it pushes you into the next tax bracket at $125.
Indeed.
Where 25% would now be applied. So sometimes it has nothing to do with the division per se.
Right.
But it's coming from the external environment.
Right.
And you have to, so you see, so both you as secretary, administrator and other senior officials have to be very alert. You must be on the pulse. You must know what is causing my people to give me the kind of vibe they're getting.
Right.
Sometimes you can't stay cloistered in your office. You have to walk the ground, walk the floor, find out what is happening with your staff. Right? A little ice cream may be necessary.
Yes. Although some will say, like, secretary trying to bribe me now.
Yes, I agree. I'm trying to bribe you. I'm trying to bribe you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But all those things come into play, right? And so on. So
yes.
you have to work.
And well, I want to move to talking about the union and the relationship, with workers and that kind of thing, because that's a thing that I don't understand very well. How that, when we're talking about the permanent lists and those kind of things. In fact, before we even get there, the engagement with the union and workers as it relates to the service and so on.
All right. Well, of course, there are different categories of workers. In the case of the civil servants, and those are persons whose job title under the Civil Service Act and so on. Like those who work in the THA and the other government ministries and departments.
Yes.
The recognized majority union is the Public Services Association, the PSA.
Okay.
The daily rated workers in the THA, the recognized majority union is the National Union of Government and Federated Workers, NUGFW.
Okay. Let me ask, before you go further, do you have to be an official member of the union paying your dues and whatever? To benefit from the...
No. Membership in a union is not compulsory.
Okay.
Right? So you, as a civil servant, doesn't have to be a member of the PSA, but you will benefit from any negotiation.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So you don't have to be a member of the union, but you benefit.
Right.
Good?
Right.
The PSA is, because it is said to be the recognized majority union, is the only union that could meet with the PSA, could meet with the CPO, and the CPO is Chief Personnel Officer, who is the head of the personnel department. The CPO under the IRA is the employer of all persons employed in the public sector. So that is why the CPO would negotiate with all the unions for the public sector. So police, fire, prison, the daily rated and so on is always the CPO, no one else.
Okay.
You can be a member. I could be a civil servant and be a member of another union.
Okay.
But that union cannot meet with the CPO to negotiate on my behalf.
Of you.
No.
On your behalf.
The PSA is the recognized majority union, right?
Gotcha.
Now, so of course you have the negotiations taking place with that. When the negotiations is settled, terms and conditions, any increase in salaries, whatever, is made known by circular to all permanent secretaries and heads of department, right? And you'll hear me say heads of department because there's some areas, for example, let's say the Auditor General Department, the Ombudsman, there's no permanent secretary there, but there's a head, the most senior person is the head of department, right? And in the case of the daily rated, in our instance, is the NUGFW. In Trinidad, there, for example, like Port of Spain Corporation, you may have 2 or 3 other unions. You may have a union that is the recognized majority union for the hourly and that kind of thing. So it depends on what the bargaining unit is. You may have a different union, but in our instance, is the NUGFW. Interaction with the NUGFW has changed over years. When I just started in the public service, when you heard the union, it was a feared creature. Oh, they were bad.
Yeah.
The officials were bad. They were bad. They were disruptive, right? But interaction now It's harmonious, it's cordial, it's very pleasant, good. You meet, you trash out issues. So now I am meeting with the union. The chief secretary had a session with the NUGFW and he gave certain instructions. Because of course, I guess on the hustings and in his public day and so on, plus his dialogue with the hierarchy of the union, you would have had certain grievances, dissatisfactions. And we had a very pleasant consultation with the union and he gave the instructions. So I, as assistant secretary in the office of the chief secretary, but charged with public administration, I have been going from division to division to sort this thing out. Because you're hearing the cry, the gangs are depleted, this not happening and so on, people clamoring for work. But let me be honest, this is full disclosure. The divisions are in a mess. In a mess. Some divisions have produced for you signed permanent lists for years gone by. Some of those signed lists now require addendum. What that means is that now when a permanent list is signed, it shows two sets of signatures, employer, the union. And there's a jurat which says it's posted and employees can make queries. My name may be spelled incorrect, my date of birth wrong, my date of entry into this category may be incorrect. I have more service than this person. You promoted this one and you overlooked me and so on. So workers are given an opportunity to bring their queries. They're investigated and if found to be true, if there are omissions, an addendum has to be done to the permanent list. Simply mean we are correcting our errors, our omissions. And that now has to be signed again by both parties. Divisions seem as though they don't have a clue what to do. And it is sad. Because workers have this expectation that their names would appear on the permanent list. Good? Permanency gives you a different feeling. There's a feeling of security, my job secure. I am somebody. I have been promoted. I am moving up. Moving on up like the Jeffersons. I'm moving on up, right? Because it's where they are. It is their space.
It will impact even your approach to work and all those kinds of things.
Your little pocket, right? And so on. And we are not being able to move forward. I can't wait much longer on some divisions. I said to one division, I can't do it for you, I can't do it myself. But it has to be done. Good? They're in a mess. You cannot come with a clear cut. This is the permanent list. When I look at it, I wonder how it was signed in the first place. So of course, addendum is required.
But these are things, I mean, before you are sent to the position.
Of course.
These are things
this
that
has nothing, none was signed in 2021. And none could have been signed in 2021. And I must applaud the NUGFW. The union has been patient. The officers, I mean, patience is a good word to use, right? But we are going to get there and we're going to get there very swiftly. No, because we owe it to the workers and we probably owe it to the people who trying to be employed, who looking for employment. We owe it to Tobago. Good? We say, let we fix it. And it's going to be fixed. The same thing, another aspect the chief secretary was unhappy about is persons who earning capacity was at the lowest level. And of course, that was a task I had to, but we have done well. There has been changes in the CPEP rates, the URP. We have a little bit more tweaking to do with the URP. For the first time, they are enjoying leave facilities that they didn't enjoy before and so on. So CPEP is okay, URP is okay. There were some workers on the Division of Food Security who were working for a very long time. Low wages too, and no retirement. And some people were 60 and they were at home, and after working for a number of years, nothing. Because you see, when you work in a division and you work alongside the regular daily rated, and what I've come to recognize is that when these people were employed, nobody told them the terms and conditions under which they were employed. Nobody told them. So they were under the impression that when I'm 60, I'm bringing in my papers the next man. Only to be told. Nothing so could happen for you. Right? I have 2 more sections to grapple with. At the Division of Settlements, you know, you wonder how we can do this to our own. Division of Settlements, there are 2 groups, 2 teams that also have to be regularized. One team at Adventure housing area, those persons were employed in 2012, 2013, and a few in 2015. And Secretary Baines, they were employed at $180 per day and told that they're working on short term. So no leave facility, no vacation leave, no sick leave, no casual leave, nothing. And the $180 in 2012 was a 2007 wage. So we have to treat with those people.
No, when you say that now, my mind just go back when I think in 2021 that CPEP will give $99 and that kind of
stuff. It had to run in. It is, and you see, it's not, okay, it may be fine to say that they're working for 4 hours. No problem with that, they're working for 4 hours, so the fixed rate is $99. No problem with that. Good? But there are certain labor laws in this land that cannot be overlooked, cannot be dismissed. Because if you end up in the industrial court, when the industrial court gives an award under Section 10 of the IRA, somebody in trouble, somebody will bawl, right? So we have that group at Adventure, and there's a team that was brought on at Milford Court in 2020, the same $180, the same, well, nothing. I don't even think they got a letter at all. Nothing.
But I mean, so we have to appreciate that some of the employments will, in my view, politically motivated for election
I
purposes.
don't mind that. Right? And if you're doing it for election purpose and you're saying you handpick your own, you say you're going to treat your own?
Well, I mean,
so you're going to treat your own?
Well, the circumstance speaks for itself.
So you're going to treat your own? But if it was expedient just for that purpose, when you're back in office and you're settled, fix the thing. Right?
That's why to this day I couldn't reconcile how, like, and I use CPEP as the reference because that's what I know. That from 2005, they're about, to 2022. It takes us to 2022 for you to have a policy that should govern the operations. I don't understand it.
I don't know, because, you know, you look at all sorts of judgments coming out of the court, both the High Court and the Industrial Court. You see the utterances, you see the judgments, the decisions are there. You don't work otherwise. You don't do otherwise, because you're going to end up back there. And you may have an enhanced judgment against you. Right? So we are going to fix those. And then there is a group under Division of Health and Wellness, the Litter Eradication Program. Right? they are also in a no man's land thing, right? So we are going to fix those. If there is need, whatever is the need, whether it's the earning capabilities, the benefit from the existing labor laws, we're going to get it right. Good. They must smile, they must be happy, they must look at themselves and say, I am somebody capable of earning XYZ. Right? It can enable them to buy another pack of rice. So it will enable them to save $1 more.
Yes.
Right?
So let me ask you, when you look into your crystal ball, right? When you look in the light of the work that you're doing and the pace that we're going on, when you look into your crystal ball, what kind of timeline you see for us fixing, even if we don't get to the top of the hill?
You mean with the permanent list and
Yeah.
there?
What kind?
No, March 31st. No.
Right, March 31st.
No, we got to be riding hard.
Right.
We're riding hard.
Right.
Some divisions have brought additional resources because no. Are riding hard. Are riding hard to the finish line.
Right.
Good. Because it's only fair, it is only right.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
So we must get the job done.
Yes. And I think, in the THA case, we know that a significant percentage of the workforce finds itself in the THA and so on, and there are still many people who are looking for employment, and sometimes they get upset with the officials and say they vote you and they can't get no work and that kind of thing. Of course, they are not privy to all the processes and what is taking place and so on. So I think getting this thing right is going to benefit everybody. You understand? Because there are some persons who are they can come into the system and make a contribution and so on.
Because Secretary Baines, let me tell you something. Today I had the privilege of looking at an extract from a permanent place. I saw vacant noted 8 times. And when I look at the remarks column, it didn't tell me how the vacancy occurred. It didn't say Terence Baines was promoted to XYZ with effect from one day. No, or he abandoned the job, or he was promoted. Nothing. But you're telling me vacant. How did the vacancy occur? A permanent list flows one into the other. You could track somebody from the day they entered a division to where they are. And if we don't do it properly, you see, we have to fix them now.
Yes.
We cannot add to the chaos that can happen, right? I don't want the people who are the civil servants to say are talking about daily paid and other people and forget them. Because you know that runs true to me, being one. Having been one. That is dear to me.
Yes.
We had one session with the Public Service Commission. We are getting some stuff ironed out. I think we have benefited from some of the negotiations we had there. One of the greatest bugbear for us is the positions that some public service positions were created eons ago. And, jobs in the public service are in salary ranges, right? From 4 all the way up. And some jobs were created by cabinet. And as we said, it was not classified. So it wasn't put within a salary range. So it wasn't in range 54, there's a minimum salary, whatever. And before I retired, I know that divisions prepared the classification questionnaire that is necessary to go to the personnel department to have those offices classified. We're still languishing with some. The chief administrator is setting up a meeting in CPO because we need those jobs. Right? We need them. We are working swiftly to have the Public Service Academy set up here because we need the training for our senior middle managers, seniors.
Okay.
Another thing that fell by the wayside for us was orientation for new entrants. That is going to be restarted, and so on.
Wow.
Right.
I mean, we have, listen, I want us to jump in and talk about, we find that we have a in my mind, and you would help me if I'm a small cadre of administrators, and as people get promoted, a lot of administrators move to Trinidad, become deputy PS,
Yes,
and
and
so
so
on,
on.
and so you have some other officials that are
Moving up.
and are acting and so on, and some of them may come from a specific background. You understand?
More technical.
And those kinds of things and so on. Talk about that and the impact of those things on a division and a division's mandate and so on. And now the thing about it is that you can't blame a man for his skill set. Whatever his skill set, that is what he will bring to the table and so on. If you are put in that position, you have to find a way to function there. I know that there are some administrators who would say, this is not necessarily my area, that's not my forte, but I in the position. Talk about the impact of that.
All right.
Yes.
And I'm going to tie that in with the establishment of the Public Service Academy.
Okay.
Because that has been recognized and we cannot continue to leave it. But when a vacancy occurs, whether it's outright or acting, the staffing arrangements is guided by the Public Service Commission regulations.
Okay.
Regulation 26 says, when an acting appointment that is not a prelude to a substantive appointment, what that simply means, let me tell you what it means.
Yes,
all right.
Yes.
So you have streams.
Yes.
You enter as a clerk 1, you are appointed as a clerk 1.
Right.
The next step up is clerk 2, is clerk 3, clerk 4. That is how you're going. That is your ladder.
Right.
Good? You are a clerk typist 1, clerk typist 2, that is your ladder.
Right.
Right? So that is your prelude to a substance. You're going up. No. Because of seniority, you may go lateral.
Okay.
So if a vacancy for a accounting assistant arises, the most senior clerk 1 may go laterally.
Okay.
Right? So you're moving outside of your ladder to somewhere else. So that is what it says. Where an acting appointment falls to be made, which is not a prelude to a substantive.
Okay.
Right? Now you could be moved from clerk 1 and be promoted to accounting assistant by exam, by interview, by some assessment. If there is an advertisement and you apply and you're successful, you can go that way.
Okay. But doesn't that job over there require a certain kind of skill set that you may not have over there? It says
the officer to be appointed is the most senior in the department who is capable of assuming and discharging the duties.
Right. Okay.
Now,
Okay.
we were moving along with that word for word throughout the public service. In 2004, I think, the Service Commission issued a circular saying that it was not prepared to consider recommendations for people to act who did not satisfy the full requirements, right?
Okay.
So you're talking about skill set and this is not a 40.
Yeah.
So remember, each job, there's a job description which says the task responsibilities and the minimum training and qualifications and so on. So the Service Commission says, if you're asking me to approve acting and the person does not possess the full qualifications as though they were going to be promoted, don't send it here.
Okay.
That ended up in the Privy Council.
Okay.
the Privy Council gave a ruling say, which says that you don't even understand your own regulations. I'm using my own words. Your regulation 26 says the most senior person does not speak to the possession of the required academic qualification.
Okay.
If you advertise and you are going to shortlist people, that is regulation 18. So you must possess the full requirements there.
Right.
But when it's acting, no.
Right.
So that Privy Council ruling was given. The Service Commission did not withdraw its circular. And I was sitting as senior in the THA and made a recommendation for an officer, because there is a circular before me which says the commission has given a directive, and that officer went to court too. An officer who thought she was overlooked. She went to court. The court says, the court looked at the Privy Council ruling and says this stands. So the 2004 circular was eventually annulled and so on, and we're back to regulation 26. So when a vacancy arises, it has to be the most senior person. And so you look at salary range persons who hold substantive appointment in the highest salary ranges. Now, administrator is in group. That means it falls under the purview of the Salary Review Commission, right? So an officer who holds a substantive appointment in range 63, 62, whatever, you come all the way down. You have to make them the offer.
Okay.
And once they accept, it has to be. The onus now is on the employer. And there's where I talk about the academy coming in.
Right.
Because we now have to swiftly, when you look at it now, you have reached down to persons who hold an appointment in salary range 54 and so on. And it could go lower.
Right, because the country getting less and less and less.
So you now have to be prepared. So you must have that academy where you can offer levels of training in different disciplines to get your people ready. And I'm passionate about that. Because you can't sit down and say somebody's an engineer and they come in to do to be appointed to act as an administrator, and they don't know HR and they don't know accounting.
But that's the thing, because when you're in the position, nobody that can be an excuse.
Yes, but the thing about it, if you're an engineer and you are head of an engineering unit, you must know about accounting, because you must prepare estimates. You must make demands for the purchase, procurement. You must know what your vote says and so on. So you must have had, no matter how minimal the clash is. Right? You have persons to supervise. You must know what the regulations say and so on.
But even added to that, I'm thinking too, that if an offer is made, I must know what is my capacity too. You understand? It's not like you don't know what that job will entail. I must. So if you accept it, that is almost suggesting that you feel that you have the capacity to do the job.
You have the capacity. At that level,
so therefore you can't be saying when you're in the seat now that
it's not your forte. You have to take night and make the according to the old people and learn the thing, right?
Yes.
But the establishment of that academy will help us, right? In that is aspect, if nothing else. Good. Because you must prepare your middle managers. You must. Right?
Well, I mean, we almost down to the close. We almost down to the close. But you have shared so many things here tonight, and I am sure that the viewers appreciate the conversation, because these things, a lot of people don't know these things, and so there is an unrealistic expectation. I wanted to ask a question earlier on, which had a little political flavor, but it is used, like sometimes something go wrong in a division, people ain't get pay, and people attack the official as if the official is the one who preparing the checks and that kind of thing and those kinds of things, and people in the public believe that because sometimes that narrative is peddled and depending on how it's peddled, but they don't understand that there's a whole regime that is set up and so on. So sometimes something happen and the official is oblivious of what take place. You only see that on Facebook or in the news.
When the ship hits the rock,
yes,
you don't ask,
the cook. That's the word for the night.
You don't ask the cook.
That's the word for the night.
Right?
Yes.
When the ship hits the rock,
indeed,
you don't ask the cook.
Indeed.
But there are persons that the secretary, assistant secretary would ask why this happened.
Right.
And it's more than just why it happened. How can we prevent it from happening again? Right? It may also require you yourself having dialogue with your administrator and the staff. You may ask the people in check staff, well, what happened? Right? It may be that, getting staff replacement, whatever. But if you can't get it from through the office of the chief secretary, then there are other options open to an administrator to do short-term hiring. Good. So you don't just sit down and say, well, this happened and I can't do nothing about it. No. And the thing about it, Secretary Baines, having worked in the public service, sometimes you get the answer from the person who is lowest down the rung. Right? I have worked with messengers who will work just as well as a permanent secretary. A daily rated foreman who will tell you, this is how you do this. And when implemented is the best advice. So you can't sit there and feign ignorance. You have to know. You have to know. You have to know what is happening around you.
Indeed. Once you're in the seat, you
can't understand.
Wow. This has been a fantastic conversation. I have learned so much just listening to you, and I am sure that there is more for us to ventilate and so on. One of my lecturers used to say that when you are informed, you better perform.
Of course.
And I think that us as a team, you being on the team is a tremendous enhancement, a tremendous addition to the team, because a significant percentage of the team have very little formal knowledge about how the public service works and that kind of thing, and I am particularly encouraged with that pending the academy and so on, because we continue to and people have their own ambitions. They get promoted and they will move on if they have to move on. That's the way it is. But this space, I am glad that we are seeing some evidence that that the fixes are taking place in some of the divisions, regardless of what that people have a mind to work, which is a thing that I appreciate. That generally people have a mind to work. That
they're good people.
Yes,
I think you have good staff.
Yes,
good staff within the THE. I always bat for my public service. Always bat.
Yes.
You have good staff. Few may need a little shaking now and then and so on, but good staff.
Yes. This was a good one. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna give you a final word. Give me a final word before we close the program.
You want one beyond the cook? Listen, it may be a new team, but the public service is there.
Yes.
I worked in the public service for the number of years, so I have a solid knowledge of how the public service works. And I must thank the Chief Secretary for the confidence, for allowing me to be a part of the team. knowledge cannot be kept to oneself.
Right, right.
My colleagues can expect my help at any time. Good. Anybody within the public, although, you have to be very cautious, because one of the regulations under the Code of Conduct says that public officers are not to approach ministers and prominent persons in society to advance their cause and so on. No, that is an act of misconduct. So you don't go to a politician to say, well, listen, your move, and you're dissatisfied with your move, and you want them to talk for you and so on.
Right.
You could face disciplinary action for that.
Right.
But I'm here for my team.
Right.
I am here for Tobago as usual. And the mantra is that Tobago must become the greatest little island on the planet. And we are going to succeed.
Right. That is a perfect way to end tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, all of you that joined us online tonight, it has been a useful, a fantastic conversation. It has been edifying, illuminating, and I want to thank Lady Sutika for being here with me tonight, and for the information that has been shared. And I am very thankful that she's a part of the team and the work that she does in and around. And I know that Tobago is going to be the better for her continued service. I have to say, continued service. So we want to thank all of you for joining us, and we look forward to having you join us again next week, the same time here, God's willing. We continue on full disclosure, and we're going to have more conversations. God bless you. Have a fantastic night on behalf of all of us here. We gone. Bye-bye.
Bye.